look, just quickly, can you just talk to, Bench, the new round, the funding process? We spoke about it previously in the past. It's so good to see that you finally raised a round. How are you deploying it? Go.
Awesome. Cool. So my name is Martin, and we're building Bench, and Bench is the cursor for hardware engineering. So basically, we, of course, all have noticed and seen the impact that AI and LLMs have had on every aspect of most people's lives in the corporate world or the business world. So consulting, software engineering, of course, design, whatever else. But this was translated to hardware designing and then hardware engineering, and that's kind of what we're solving with Bench. And yeah, we recently announced our £1 million pre-seed raise for that. And yeah, we're now scaling up, building the product, and deploying to first customers soon.
Amazing, very exciting.
We were just talking a little bit before you got on the show about vibe coding, Lovable, their big raise. It's so cool to see, and forgive me if vibe coding isn't the word I should be using for something like this, but it's so cool to see a combination of hardware design and seeing this alongside it. And I actually went on your Twitter and looked at tweets from ages ago, and a lot of it was like, when's vibe coding going to come into hardware design, right? And it's really cool to see you actually just take the initiative and go and build that. Could you talk a bit like the words I'm using right now? Vibe coding, hardware design. What does that look like today? Like, what does that look like with you guys, and what does the future of that look like?
Yeah, so we definitely use the word vibe coding, vibe engineering eternally, and we love that word. To me, the one thing is, vibe plus something is usually a bit more maybe B2C or like prototype focused. So we're starting with a more expert user. So we're starting with a more niche down kind of expert use cases. So that's probably the only caveat I'd make here. But generally, yes, we believe that vibe engineering is coming. And as much as our first play is making expert engineers even better, making them the proverbial 10x hardware engineers, we believe that in a couple years, let's say 3 to 5 years, there definitely will be a product that's more so vibe engineering focused, essentially enabling almost non-engineers to build hardware. And we're very excited about that, of course, because, of course, now the cost of building software is going to zero, approaching zero, I believe, in the next 3 to 5 years. So what's after? What comes after? And we believe that's when small robotics or even small Arduino projects that people build already, but you have to be somewhat proficient to actually build them. We believe that that's the next step, and that's going to be quite exciting to see what people build in their free time in their hopes.
Wow. And a follow up from that is like, how I mentioned the earlier tweets, right? Like, how was this idea born? How did you find yourself even tweeting about these things? What's the story behind it?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So that probably starts in university. So both myself and my co-founder were quite involved in kind of university engineering projects. So what I did at university is I founded a project called Hyperlink, where we built the first Hyperloop in London. In that, we had roughly 100 engineers across 11 teams in both software and hardware building the Hyperloop. And what I noticed then is, as the software teams were moving much faster than my hardware teams, of course. So the iteration cycles were much faster. Obviously, a fully different domain. So there's no surprise in that, but it was very apparent then. So I kind of, that's when the seed of the idea was born. More the seed of the problem I've noticed. There was not really a solution to that yet back then, because that was like early 2022. So before LLMs kind of became wildly popular. But after they did, it was the first idea that kind of my mind let's say gravitated towards. And my CTO had the same exact experience. He was at Imperial. He was the lead engineer building rockets, a rocketry team, the 50 engineers as well. And basically, we both kind of landed on that same, let's say, inkling of a problem at the same time. And when it came together, it was quite apparent for us that we want to build the AI mechanical engineer. The one question that we kind of spent a bit of time on, we spent like a year iterating, was how do you attack this problem? So we had like probably 4 to 5 different ideas on how to attack this problem and how to get into this market. That's quite difficult to get into. It requires a lot of build up to really build something useful in engineering software, just because of how much time the current oligopoly of softwares that kind of rule that world have had to develop their softwares. So yeah, that was the big difficulty. And I'm not going to say we cracked it yet. We're definitely on the way to let's say some level of PMF. So yeah.
Amazing. Tell us a bit about the fundraise. It looks like you raised from Super Seed. We had Dan Bauer on last week, actually, talking about
Awesome.
him, his fund, his thesis. How did you find raising money from him in the team?
Yeah, so I'll be very objective, of course, as I'm talking about my advice to public. No, actually, they're great. They're actually really good. They run a very streamlined process. It was very quick for VC standards. It was a couple of weeks, really, like 4 weeks total. So yeah, very transparent process, very quick. Great people to work with. And kind of now knowing this post taking the money. And yeah, very much an enjoyable process, contrary to some other VCs that I will not mention, of course.
Oh, that's what you want to. I'll get the views up for sure. That's so cool to hear, and it's nice to see. Like, I didn't know that Superseed led. I just checked out previously. We just found it out. Yeah. Dan was on. Did the week. Really cool to see the worlds from our end colliding. Something that we kind of I love how this was just thrown in super nonchalantly when you were giving like the background of how this thing got started when you were at university building London's first Hyperloop. Right, this is the time frame when you're doing projects like this casually, like with a team of 100.
Yeah, as you do.
With a team like. When I was at uni, I was definitely not building London's first Hyperloop, which is probably why I'm interviewing you. But I'd love to hear about.
You had an exit, I haven't. So.
Okay, yeah, true. You will soon come there. That's on the roadmap for you guys, I assume. But Hyperlink, like what? How does this just start at uni? Because as I said, when I was at uni, maybe I was playing in my room, playing like Call of Duty or something, or playing Skyrim.
Yeah.
Or I'm out at a party. Like, how do you build this at university? I think it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So the story is actually you build it for starting a podcast. So my first move was starting a podcast. So back in 2020, when COVID was happening, I decided I needed like a change in my life. I was transitioning away from running my previous businesses that were kind of more so like cash flow focused, like a marketing agency or like dropshipping way back. And I kind of wanted to sunset that, but I didn't really know what to do afterwards. So what I decided to do was to start a podcast and to try to talk to kind of, let's say accomplished or kind of impressive Polish people in business or in tech and then kind of similar fields. So one of my guests, I believe my second guest there was a guy called Max Kozarzewski, who was the president of the Edinburgh University Hyperloop team called Hype. And I found it very cool. And I decided, okay, in the future, I'd like to build something like a startup, like an actual startup in engineering. So let me do something similar to essentially fundraise based upon later when I do the startup. It was basically all for the story, which I think is the best way to live life. It's just live life for the stories. And it actually works. So might as well. So I talked to Max and me and my friend at the time, we wanted to kind of fund a team and kind of to build something hardware and kind of like essentially build something impactful. And we were looking for a project that had a big competition attached to it and that kind of every engineer would find exciting just based on the sound of it. And basically Hyperloop became that. There was a big competition, that was Elon Musk's competition at the time. That unfortunately got scrapped the year we started, so we could never really attend that. Max did with Hype. And also, Hyperloop is just something that's inherently quite exciting to most engineers. So when we started pitching this to potential joiners, potential team leads, potential kind of like co-founders or kind of partners at university, it was quite easy to make the sell, just because it was a good kind of, let's say, area for people to get excited about. So yeah, that was the start. Yeah.
Wow. Just so insane.
How did it go? I mean, I think you worked on it for a number of years, right? Like, what was the outcome?
Yeah, so we worked on it for 2 years. It was honestly quite challenging. So we worked from Queen Mary in London. We had people from 5 universities join over the years. So Imperial, UCL, and a couple outside of London. But it was mainly a Queen Mary kind of thing. The issue with that is, in London, we found it quite tough space-wise, both for kind of like an actual lab space and having like an actual room for ourselves. There wasn't that much space. And then there was not that much, I guess, funding opportunities or like that much kind of sponsorship in. So we had to do this quite lean over the first year specifically, and the second year was a bit better. So in the first year, we basically came up mainly with just a design, like a prototype. And then in the second year, when we kind of COVID was mostly over at that time, and we had a bit more funding and more experience, then we managed to build a full pod, and we took it in the end to display it in the European Hyperloop Week conference in Delft, the Netherlands. Also, in the meantime, we went to Canada to their Canadian Hyperloop Week, I believe, something like that. And we displayed there the linear induction motor, so the kind of the engine of the Hyperloop over there as well. And I think we won the award for the best low power electronic system. So that's kudos to our electronics team.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, that was the story. In the end, the Hyperloop never fully operated, but it was getting there. So I was worried the team was gonna get there. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, insane. So we've had the sort of prelim, what happened before bench. You've raised this money now. How is this going to be deployed? What's sort of top of mind for you guys coming in? What does sort of the next 6 months look for you guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So what we're trying to do is, of course, build that, let's say, that future where an AI mechanical engineer exists. But of course, engineering or mechanical engineering either are huge topics. Of course, you can't detect the whole process from the start. It's about slicing it down and attacking it kind of bit by bit and kind of almost like use case by use case or kind of software by software. So what we're doing now is we've got a couple first use cases identified, and we're now kind of rushing to build them. So we're looking to release our MVP in the coming months, and kind of in the meantime, we're working with design partners and kind of gearing up to like a full scale actual product launch, because this was the previous one was more so like an announcement. So now we're working towards a proper product launch where we can sell this scalability to companies and get them using it.
Awesome. And I'm just going to jump in straight again, like the design partner conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they're usually people who design their own hardware. So you don't really have to go on their site. For now, we haven't had to do that. More so what you do, because we work with, so kind of you can slice the engineering process essentially from conceptual design through like full design all the way to kind of final design completion, then design for manufacturing, and then actual manufacturing and actually shipping the product. So we sit in the design space. And the design space is mostly digital. So it's mostly through softwares like CAD softwares, like simulation softwares, requirement softwares, calculation softwares. It's mostly digital, which is why it doesn't really require us to go on site yet. I mean, we still might kind of, try to play that the kind of Palantir model of, having a lot of forward deployed engineers. And we think there's definitely something there. But in general, there does need to be like an in-person component. So integration usually is digital and usually can be done remotely. But of course, we find that sometimes it's easier to go there and just talk to people in person and just help close deals sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Closing deals. I mean, in terms of the cash, are you going to be like, is it founder-led sales mode, or are you going to have some sort of like A's coming in at some point? Probably too early for them, but.
A bit early now, but yeah, probably like next round, probably like after next round, I'd say. For now, we're selling and we're enjoying it.
Amazing.
And what about technical talent? Are you kind of looking across Europe? Have you got a center of operations, and how are you finding building and scaling, I guess, like insane technical talent?
Yeah, so we are, I would say, I'm still going to say quite lucky in terms of the talent that we're looking for. So we're looking for a very specific profile. And that profile is engineers. So people who study mechanical, aerospace, whatever else, but then transition to software, right? So that is it's a somewhat niche profile, seemingly niche because it requires a career transition. But a lot of kind of engineers transition to software, usually for better pay, usually because this hardware world can be quite slow. So it's kind of quite, they're quite two different ways of working, let's say. But these people still have usually huge passion for hardware. They just can't really materialize it because they're working in software. So when we approach them and when they find us with running software for hardware, they find it immensely exciting. And it's quite easy for us to just excite them and poach them, to be honest. So that's been the case. We're going to be making 2 announcements, hopefully very soon, about new joiners, and they fit that bill. So that's going to be our experience. We'll see how that scales, and I think as we scale, probably is probably going to go more so towards pure kind of CS talent or just interested in hardware. But for the early team, for the first 5-10 hires, definitely, we really believe that hiring people who have built hardware in the past and who have either studied engineering or actually built hardware in projects, or built their own, tinkered with their own hardware at home even, that's probably less so, but that will be okay. We believe that that's quite crucial, and we believe that that's how we build a team who truly understands the problem and who have that one level deeper of understanding of what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's weird. Like, I would have. So, is it that you're actually, not that you're not struggling to find talent, but you're not sort of like, it's not as hard as people like me who maybe doesn't know as much about the space would actually think, right? Because I hear that you need like a cross combination of some level of software engineering. I'm assuming some level of like understanding of AI in general, and also like,
of course,
a mechanical and not a mechanical engineering degree, but like they have to have been on that hardware front before. That for me is 3. That's like where are all these unicorns?
Yeah, there aren't that many people at that type of.
Yeah, it's definitely niche. I can't tell you what percentage of the UK CS population fits that bill. Probably not a lot. But again, that we know how to find them, I guess. And then if you do, it's a quite decently high close rate, at least excitement rate for them. So it's been helpful.
I was going to say, a lot of the early stage founders that we've interviewed often say that their first hires come from their network. Is that been true for you?
Yes, it's somewhat true. Yes. So actually, one of the guys that will be announcing soon, he has worked with my CTO Rayhan and Imperial College Rocketry. So they kind of work together in that project. So they worked there for like I think 1 or 2 years at least. And then the other person is also from Imperial, and I think they cut through with Rayhan at some point as well. So they're probably not. They're somewhat from networks, yes, and definitely helps for us to build that kind of trust and that level of belief in them. That's quite important in the early stages.
Amazing. I mean, look, we're coming to time. I guess is there anything? Where should we send people to help Bench right now? Is it socials? What's the CTA? Where do we need to push people?
For sure. If you're interested in building the Christopher hardware or in trying out the Christopher hardware for yourself, go to our website, which is getbench.ai. And you can book a call with me directly, and I'm very happy to chat to everyone who is interested in any way.
Boom.
Love it. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck with it all.
Yeah, let's get you back on soon, Martin. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Definitely. See you guys. Thanks a lot.
Ciao.